What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we have how Poland could have won in World War II. Definitely excited to jump in and see what our alternate history could have looked like and how they could have figured out this win in World War II when you got Germany invaded, then you got Soviets invading. How could they have figured this out? Before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button, get a video a thumbs up. Also, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers, so run it up, run it up.
In the build-up to World War II, there were several occasions in which France, Britain, and the Polish Republic had the opportunity to prevent the outbreak of the war.
Okay.
As early as 1933, when Hitler was rising to power, Polish leader
if we're throwing in allies, then okay, yeah, I understand.
Józef Pilsudski supposedly proposed that Poland and France launch a joint Franco-Polish preemptive strike on Germany to overthrow Hitler, whose ambitions Pilsudski feared might destabilize Europe and directly endanger Poland. France, however, objected, and Germany's remilitarization of the Rhineland occurred soon after. Over the years, Germany was allowed by the Western powers to annex Austria, the Sudetenland, and further Czech territories.
That's crazy.
Officially, these expansions were tolerated by the West under the policy of appeasement, allowing Germany to fulfill its stated goal of reuniting historically ethnic German lands. The Western powers of France and Britain, recognizing the dangerous level of resentment which had built up within Germany in response to the harsh conditions of the Versailles Treaty, believed that if the German people were provided the same right to self-determination which was given to Poland and various other states under Woodrow Wilson's 14 points, then the Germans would be encouraged to focus on internal improvement instead of hostility and external expansion. This Western trust in the Germans was further aided by Hitler's staunch opposition to communism at a time when the threat of communist ideology spreading beyond the Soviet Union was a serious concern. Hitler stood in stark contrast to Germany's previous Weimar government, which had established a strong relationship with the Soviets as an economic, political, and military ally. Certainly, the Germans were a potential threat, but they were seen as more manageable and reasonable than the Soviets. They could, after all, directly attack Germany if they needed to, but not so much the USSR. Some, like Britain's brief King Edward VIII, even saw the Germans under Hitler as a potential ally at best, or at very least, a tool which could be used to weaken the Soviet Union. It was considered by a few in both the French and British governments that if Germany were provided the means to do so, it would, based on its strong inclination against communism, launch a personal military crusade against Russia, aiming to destroy the Soviet Union or die trying. Either outcome was favorable since many were still on the fence about Germany's role in Europe's future, and if it were to weaken the USSR but collapse itself, then this would be of no great expense to the Western powers. The West would almost have this contradictory duality of expecting the best of Germany by appeasing them in the belief that they would be satisfied, while at the same time the worst is expected of Germany in that they will use these resources to destroy their enemies, foremost being the USSR, but quite possibly France and Britain afterwards.
Exactly. Let's say they destroy France, they dominate the USSR. They do what you want, but then they have so much power. Did you not think what happens after, or did you think we'll deal with that after it happens? They wasn't forward thinking enough to figure this man's out. Hitler played the West, and the West paid the price. They thought they could use Hitler as a tool, and that was their biggest mistake. They thought they could use him as a tool.
To assume Britain and France were acting on pure benevolence has been called naive, and it has instead been suggested that the true motive behind appeasement was simply to expedite a German-Soviet war, so that one country could be toppled and the other one left on the brink, vulnerable enough for France or Britain to sweep in and finish them off, restoring a pre-Great War order in Europe and undoing the annexations of Russia and Germany, killing two birds with one stone. This theory suggests that Poland, despite recognizing the writing on the wall very early on, was intentionally ignored by France and Britain, who were willing to sell the Poles out for the sake of simultaneously eliminating the two greatest threats to European security. This is supported by the fact that in August of 1939, Poland started making a general mobilization to prepare for the incoming German aggression, but both France and Britain pressured the Poles to stop this on the claim that there was still a chance for peace if Hitler wasn't provoked. Poland complied and stopped its mobilization, only to be invaded anyway, the German conquest of Poland being largely facilitated by the fact that the Polish armies weren't fully mobilized. Poland fell and the Germans could finally turn their attention to Russia, but they didn't. In fact, only days prior to the invasion of Poland, a non-aggression pact had been signed between the two, almost as if it was a surprise move. But the question is, for who?
How is Poland the only country that saw this? The only country that figured this out? Why did the British and French not listen? Like, and did they know about all these camps going on in Germany when they were trying to appease Hitler? Did they know about this and we're still trying to appease them and saying that's okay? Because that's disgusting.
Poland already expected as much from both of its neighbors. This wouldn't have been the first time that Germany and Russia divided Poland up between themselves. So this abrupt alignment with the Soviets, followed by a hasty invasion, could only have been meant to throw off the West, who expected a conquest of Poland to be followed by an invasion of Russia. Or perhaps it was a deception to encourage the Soviets to lower their guard. Whatever the case, no one else at the time really seemed to know for sure, and this is reflected by the several months of tense non-aggression which followed Britain and France's declarations of war upon Germany. At some point prior to the invasion of Poland, Hitler likely became suspicious of France and Britain's lack of action against him, not believing their intentions to be so well-meaning, and eventually suspecting that all this had been a ploy to get Germany invested in an Eastern war so that France and Britain could attack their undefended West. It seems too convenient that Germany's old rivals suddenly became peaceable, passive even in the face of German remilitarization. Almost as though it was something they desired, for Germany to make war. But not with them, of course, not the peaceful countries, but with the evil Soviet Union, which Germany expressly named as its enemy. Once again, for 8 months, France and Britain took virtually no military action against Germany, almost as if they were waiting for something. That something was Germany's betrayal of Russia, the anticipated breaking of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and continued march eastward into Soviet land, again a conflict which would have left Germany far more vulnerable in the West. Rather than walk into this trap, peace with the Soviets was for the time maintained, and Germany instead turned to secure its western border by swiftly conquering France and locking Britain out of the continent. Now, if in fact this was really what was going on behind the scenes, Poland, who long expected invasion by Germany, Russia, or both, was made to willingly stand down and accept its destruction for France and Britain's greater good. But what if that changed? What if this theory turned out to be true, but Poland, instead of comply, turned the tables on Germany and the West? A major reason behind the Poles saying no to Hitler's demands in 1939 was the country's prior experiences with the Germans in the decades past. Essentially, the Poles simply didn't trust Germans, especially Prussians. But Hitler was neither
and they were smart not to. And they were definitely smart not to, because how could you? Poland was smart, bro. Like, they knew what was coming, but the dumb West, thinking Hitler could be used as a tool for them to use whenever they want, thinking a tool to fight against the Soviets, and then they'd easily dismantle whoever came out on top, was idiotic. It was absolutely idiotic, and that's why France was beaten by the Germans next. Thankfully, the British were strong enough to take out or to hand Hitler his first loss and make him look another way instead of continue fighting with the British. But that's also in part due to Poland and Polish military.
Prussian, nor was he born in the German Empire. He was an Austrian, and this made him appear to Pilsudski as less of a threat. This had actually brought the two countries to sign non-aggression pacts, and Hitler had even proposed Poland join the Anti-Comintern Pact as a direct military ally against the USSR. But Poland rejected this in the belief that it could remain a neutral and autonomous buffer state between Germany and Russia, though of course this was only possible with Western support. If Poland had caught on to the unusual passiveness of appeasement or simply became suspicious enough to lose faith in France and Britain, it might have become more open to a German-Polish alliance against their mutual adversary of the Soviet Union. In this timeline, Poland would enter into this partnership fully anticipating a German betrayal at some point, and so would remain on guard but concede to Germany its major demands, most notably ceding the Polish corridor to allow Germany direct land access to their East Prussian exclave. Because Poland abandons the West to align itself with Germany, there is no guarantee of their independence from the West, no German invasion of Poland, and thus no Western Front. Instead, Germany immediately charges against the USSR in late 1939 with Poland's support. Because this version of Operation Barbarossa takes place so early on, the Soviets are even less prepared due to not having recovered from the Great Purge. The Poles, having a strong Slavic identity and now being Germany's most valuable ally against the Soviet Union, would act to mediate better relations and mutual respect between Germany and the Slavic populations of Belarus and the Ukraine, preventing these populations from defecting to the side of the Soviets. In our timeline, interwar Poland had been developing various tactics of encouraging the Soviet-dominated nations to disobey Moscow, a concept known as Prometheism, to essentially fracture the Soviet Union by giving onto the various ethnic groups of the USSR the fire of revived national identity, just like Prometheus giving to man the gift of fire, hence Prometheism. When the Soviets and Poles signed their own non-aggression pact in 1932, Poland gradually abandoned Prometheism for the sake of normalizing relations with the USSR, but the project would take on new life upon the outbreak of this new war. The Poles would convince the Germans to place them in charge of recruitment from occupied Soviet territories and in arming anti-Soviet rebel groups, while the Germans focused on direct military operations. Eventually, the Red Army is pushed far to the east, Stalin continually sending wave after wave of hastily trained soldiers to face the better equipped and better trained Germans, effectively bleeding out Soviet manpower. The combined pressure of lacking military command, insufficient militarization, inadequate training, and mounting pressure from independence movements finally drives the USSR to its breaking point. But before that could happen, Poland, not expecting Germany to leave them with even their present borders intact, would secretly correspond with the West to negotiate a new joint invasion of German lands, much like that supposedly proposed back in 1933.
That right there would have been crazy. That plan right there, they definitely could have won. They definitely could have won. That would have been such an insane move by Poland to pull off. Like, that would have been in the history books to study for countries.
With the majority of Germany's soldiers preoccupied in the east during the final battles of the conflict, Poland would withdraw and turn its attention westward, the Poles and French converging upon Germany proper before finishing up what remained of the USSR. Post-war, Poland would annex the entire Belarusian SSR along with parts of the Ukrainian SSR, up to and including Kiev. In all of these regions, there are still fresh memories of Soviet cruelty, making the stable but less dictatorial rule of Poland a much welcome change. Those regions of the Ukrainian SSR which have not been annexed by Poland would be reorganized into an independent Cossack republic within Poland's sphere of influence. All remaining Soviet Socialist republics see post-war reorganization, largely overseen by Poland and the UK, some states being merged while others broke apart further, most notably Russia proper, which would see the breakaway of the Crimean People's Republic, the Don Republic, the Kuban People's Republic, and the Mountainous Republic of the Northern Caucasus. These last three being largely dominated by Cossack populations and remaining closely aligned with one another. Germany would once again be demilitarized and its territorial acquisition stripped away, additionally seeing a few small ethnically Polish border territories ceded to Poland. Poland would now hold a major position as the peacekeeper of the East, ensuring stability within the lesser states and acting as a check against Germany and Russia. As for other parts of the globe, without the German invasion of Western Europe in 1940, the West remains free to secure its various colonies across Asia, and thus Japan doesn't dare make claim to them. As for Russia, after decades of communism and now being so harshly beaten in war, the once mighty empire is left damaged and destitute, forcing it to sell its store of resources in Siberia just to make ends meet. Poland, Japan, and the US would become Russia's main customers, Japan hoping to utilize these resources to continue fueling its campaign in China, especially once the US would cut Japan off from American oil resources. Japan's ability to control Russia's Far Eastern port, and the US's hesitance to conduct business with Japan, could see war break out between the three in the not-too-distant future. The US of Z thanks for watching. Special thanks to Your Spying for
That would have been absolutely insane had it gone down like it did in this video. I'm very intrigued to hear what you guys think about that. Hear your thoughts in the comment section for sure, because that would have definitely shaken things up. Yeah, that would have put the world on its axis. Let me know how y'all feel. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next one. See you guys next time.